you demand media with real content. So it's a great model. It's a very interesting model. My key question is, which is your future, the white label or the advertising? You guys are investing in this. Because it's required to do both.
Sure. I think that in our particular case, we have one advantage in doing both, in that by building a network, especially in an area like TV, it already puts in place the content that you would need to then sub-syndicate out from a business development perspective. So in some ways, we believe that one leads to the other, and it's really just a way of optimizing revenue. But building the network out and building a very large network and being able to do it at scale and inexpensively running the launch of sites is a key part, we think, of being successful.
Because I see the white label part again from companies, just hearing you talking to them. There's a tremendous need for them to get more content on their sites because they use so much effort to get their customers to this site, and they don't have enough content there to keep it there.
Right.
So how much does it cost them to get a white label solution?
Every deal is a little bit different, but it's really a monthly subscription type of model with a minimum commitment.
Give it a number of zeros.
But
Thanks.
So you mentioned SEO early on in your presentation. I assume that's a primary acquisition strategy for you.
It's actually been a real surprise for us in that it's a really nice acquisition strategy, but by no means the primary acquisition strategy. And that came as a bit of a surprise for us as we launched our betas. What we found is that people were showing up because of a passion for that particular topic, and the topics are largely underserved. So we certainly have nodes on our network like Blaster for video games or Screener for movies that are way super served. But there are a lot of these places where there just isn't a place to go, a place to start every day, multiple times a day, to stay on top of that particular topic, and people liked having that. And so as soon as they discovered it, they passed it to a friend, they shared something with a friend, they commented or otherwise interacted. And a key feature that we didn't talk about here is the ability to follow what people within your social group are doing. So you can become an editor, essentially, just through the act of reading. So in that way, it's kind of like a friend feed type of feature built into what it is that we're doing, and you can share that around.
So to the extent that SEO is important, though, how do you feel about trying to fight that fight with so many microsites as opposed to just being one aggregated site like About or someone like that that's just nailed SEO as a core part of their business model?
About certainly is a place for us to learn from. It is our sense, though, that by having each site be very much about an individual topic, that we will have better luck on the SEO front with that approach than by trying to create a sophisticated single domain where we have to try to convince tens of millions of people to show up for it to be successful. In this case, we can launch lots of sites inexpensively. Some are going to be huge hits, some are going to be moderate hits, but overall the network has the opportunity to be very, very large.
One other question, in terms of monetization, to what extent do you see, what's the proportion of sort of brand and CPM-driven advertising versus CPC in your perfect world?
I think that in my perfect world, I'd like to see it be about 60-40 in favor of brand. I think that one of the things that we, again, have as a potential advantage is looking at ourselves as specialty publishing and the next wave of how magazine-type advertisers represent themselves online. You know, if you have tennis shoes is not a great example, but there are some examples in these specialty areas, surfboards, different kinds of shoes, things like that, and you say, well, how do I have that big, beautiful ad next to some content that actually makes sense? You don't get it with behavioral ad models. You don't get it on social media sites. And so they want to move away from magazines. They want to move online in a way that makes sense to them, and there just aren't a lot of places to do it.
So for each of those areas, what is your model? Is it an in-house sales force? Are you going to hook up with networks? What's your plan for each of those?
The plan is to begin with specialty networks around particular groups of verticals. So here's a sports vertical, and how do we sign a relationship with someone who really represents and knows sports very, very well. Similarly for automotive, similarly for women, as we roll out chunks of our network. I think over time it would certainly be great to build an in-house sales force, but at least for the next 18 to 24 months, the expense and complexity of doing that, we think we would be better served on focusing on product and on the business development.
Is that on the branded side that you're describing that? What about on the CPC side?
On the CPC side, we already have a relationship in place that we'll be announcing here in about a week.
So it seems like your whole business is built around economies of scale. If you're only going to do 5, contact sites, it's probably, probably get better quality, more cost effective just to hire good people to produce the content.
Potentially. I think one of the things that we have found, and I was at Yahoo for a long time, and this is one of the challenges that we face there, is that being able to do any business at what I would call internet scale is key to being really, really big and doing something where you make a significant amount of money. And the techniques for doing that are predominantly crowdsourcing, whether it's UGC or something else, or technology. And we're merging some of those aspects together. But a lot of the niches that we're going after simply don't make any economic sense to go out and build by hand. And certainly not to build a social site by hand where you have to wrap the technology, even if you're using somebody else's stuff and just doing the integration work on it. And all of a sudden, well, what do? Do you just leave those folks at the side of the road because cricket's not a big enough thing in the US to say that we should have a site for it? We're able to reach down into all of those niches at small, medium, and large sizes and really serve all of those. I can certainly see this as a pyramid play where you start with a highly automated model. As sites become successful, you add more specialness to them over time until you might be actually publishing content for them as they reach the peak of the pyramid. But that's more of a development plan for us than a strategy that we're pursuing currently.
I guess my question though is how does content degrade or quality of content degrade as you grow the site? I mean, I assume that it's not one algorithm that just works across all of these content areas. There's a lot of tweaking. Otherwise, Gabe Rivera would have already been the technique that ruled them all, right? So.
There actually is one algorithm across all the sites, all respect to Gabe, but we feel like we found a technique that allows us to do this for lots and lots and lots of different topic areas, apply natural language techniques universally across those. But what we've done is built into the editing engine itself the ability to weight different factors because those are differently important for different areas. So if you're doing a knitting community, freshness of news and updating every 5 minutes probably is less important than community interaction. So you weight that more heavily.